Alright, so now we got the wire harness all fed through there perfectly and all hooked up and ready to rock and roll. Alright, so while we're upside down like this, let's go ahead and get our chain roller on there. I am going to have to use this crappy ass chain roller that came with my machine here because they don't make this any longer. So luckily it's not damaged in any way, it's just got some paint on it that I can't get off. And you know what? It really doesn't matter because this is a chain roller. It's going to be underneath the goddamn chain. So it's going to go right about in here. So this paint will blend right in with the frame. You'll barely see it. You won't even know it's there. The chain's going to go across it. Who cares? So let's get her done. So what we're going to do, we're going to grab us our Maxima waterproof grease. We're going to grease up the inside and the outside of the collar. So, we'll take us some grease on a Q-tip right here, and we will put some right inside of there. And that'll keep the bolt from seizing up in there. And then next, we're going to just use our fingers for this part. We're going to grease up the outside of it, where the rubber goes on, and that'll keep it from seizing up. So yeah, then we can just put this on here, alright? Oh yeah, we're greased up. Alright, then on our bolt, we're going to use some blue Loctite and make sure that some bitch don't come off of there. Now that we sent the bolt through the grease, you want to make sure that you clean the threads up right here because since we're torquing, we don't want any grease on here. But we are going to use some blue Loctite. And then the chain roller just goes right in here. Alright. Alright, I couldn't find a torque spec for it, so we're going to use the general torque spec, which is between 13 and 18 foot-pounds. So I'm going to go 16, and that will be 192 inch-pounds. So 16 foot-pounds or 192 inch-pounds is what I'm going to use. 192. Alright, we can go ahead and get our steering stem in there, and as long as we're flipped over like this, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna insert the bottom first anyway because we need to pound that bearing race. All right, so let's get us our bearing steering stem bearing kit all measured up and get everything in order, and then we can start putting the steering stem in. And we got an all balls kit. So we're going to leave it just like that, and let's head into the other room and get all these bearings under control. Let's get our bearings. So let us get to the steering stem. All right, folks, we're back in the assembly room. This makes things easier. We can just stand here on this nice mat and get things done. So the way this is going to work, this is the old one. Technically, I can still use it. These are still really good. I cleaned them up nice, and they are perfect. And yeah, so we're going to use the all balls kit. So, what do we got in the package? Oh yeah. Of course, we got a sticker. Woo! You can always have, you know, stickers. Stickers are good. I like stickers. And I've written down a bunch of stuff on mine already because I already did this, so I'm going to show you guys how it works. And we got us our lower bearing here. This is our top bearing. We got our lower bearing right here. And we got a couple of washers. And we got our dust seals. This one is for later use. This will be on the top. We'll put this on when we put this into the machine there. The way this works, it says on here, let me get my glasses. It says on here, before installing the lower bearing, assemble the stock bearing with some balls between the races. Match the height of the stock bearing setup within plus or minus 1 millimeter by using the individual washer 991041, which is this guy. If the OEM bearing matches the height of the replacement bearing, do not use the washer. Alright, so here's what we do. So we get this guy out. This is the bearing holder. So we have our stock one right here. And this is the new one. And we're going to use this. This is our fine badge that goes on here, which we're going to figure out what to do. We're going to get a new one, or I'm going to do something with this. I haven't decided yet. But anyway, we're going to use this as a measuring tool. But as you can see, we're off. So we need this washer. And this is how I measured it earlier. So this is going to go here, like so. And it says within plus or minus 1 millimeter. Well, when we put this on here, let's get the paper out of the way. I said, let's get the paper out of the way. There we go. So I use this as a measuring device. Check that out. That is perfectly flat. So this, we're going to need the washer, and we are definitely within plus minus 1 millimeter because we are perfect with the washer. So we need the washer. And you can see in the picture right here, it shows the bearing, the seal, and the washer. So we're going to take the washer, flat side down, and it's going to sit right there. And then we're going to take the dust seal and then, as you can see by the picture, the bottom has the lower part right here, which is indented in the picture. So it's going to go like this, and we will slide that right on here, and we will pound it down. But first, we're going to have to put some grease in here because they oiled it to keep it nice, but they didn't pack it. So we're going to have to pack that with some grease. And I'm going to use gloves to preserve my delicate hands. No, actually, this makes for lazy cleanup is what this does. So we're just going to pack this with grease, and then we're going to take these gloves off and throw them in the garbage can. Simple. So we got our Maxima waterproof grease right here. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit inside of here. A little bit on the outside of here as well. And I got some on the outside of here as well so that it sits on the washer there, and it will keep it from seizing up, and it will kind of stick it in place as well and keep it there. So see, now it doesn't move. It'll stay where it needs to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to take us some grease. If we can get it to drop in there. And we're going to just start cruising through here and start taking bites out of it, right? So that it comes up through. See how it's popping out of the holes right here? That's what we want. And once we go from the bottom, now we'll go from the top and we'll get some in there as well. And see why I decided to use the gloves? Alright, now that we got that all greased up, packed full of tight with grease and stuff like that, we can put that sucker right on here. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to miss those threads if we can. We don't want grease on the threads, but we don't care about grease on here because we're going to be greasing up this before we put it in anyway. So it goes just like so. And now we're going to have to press that on there. So let's get rid of the gloves and we'll press that sucker right up on there. And this is how easy you can clean up. Boom! We're clean. Alright, so now we got our washer. Don't forget the washer. That makes it the right height. And then we got our seal. Let's double check that we got everything where it's supposed to be. We got the bearing, the direction it's supposed to be, with that ridge side down, because it goes inside the seal. So then we got the seal next, and then we got the washer underneath there. Boom. So we can press that dog on there. What I'm going to do, you only want to hit this outer race. So I have this little piece right here, which is something from a 400EX, which I'm not even sure. Maybe it's I think it's one of the washers that goes on the clutch. Underneath the clutch basket, I think it is. But anyway, this is the perfect diameter. So we're gonna put it like this because this side's all flat. This side has some kind of weird lip on it, but we're gonna put it like this. We don't care about getting a little bit of grease on there. And then check this out. If you were paying attention to my last videos, any of the last videos we did, the front forks. I pulled my lamp apart to use this to drive in the seals in the front forks. Guess what? It's back. Look at that. It is perfect. We can use this exactly again to drive this bearing in. So let's get her done. Alright, so I tried not to move the camera as much as possible, and I tried to get the whole thing in the shot. It looks like I did. You can see the bottom and the top. You can see where I'm going to hammer on this son of a bitch, and you can see where this is going to be driven on down on there. So, without further ado, let's do it. Sorry about the camera and all this weird crap, but we're getting her done. Well, there you go. That doesn't move any longer, and the bearing went into the seal evenly, and it looks like we're good to go. Alright folks, there we are now. The seal doesn't move any longer, and the bearing is pressed into the seal evenly. And we used the grease in order to keep it straight, and it worked pretty good. So, boom, got a bearing. Now, we don't need this on there any longer. And we need to clean up our threads too, because we don't want any grease on the threads. All right. And I went ahead and greased up the top bearing as long as we were greasing up bearings, and I had the gloves on too, so no need to fret. We got that taken care of also, and now we're going to go back out into the other room there and get this thing in the machine. Woo! Let's do it! Before we put it on the machine, let's just go ahead and put us a coat of grease right on here as well. Just make sure that that gets all greased up, because we don't want that to be seized up in there. There we go. Now we can get this up on the machine, and let's get to commencing. All right. Now that we got our bearing and our seal and our washer down there, we're gonna go ahead and throw on the outer bearing cage here, and it's just gonna press right on in here. And you want to make sure that you put this the fatter side in, because it's gonna go onto this little ridge right here. It's gonna bottom out onto here, And when we put the, watch, so if you put it in this direction and you try to put the steering stem up through, see, the bearing will not go on there. So you want it to go in like this, so that when we put it up through, it will actually cup the bearing, like so. So we're going to drive it in like this, and we're going to see if we can't get it in there without too much hassle. Yeah, we're going to have to use some force, but we're going to use the old bearing race. That's what this is right here. This is the old bearing race that was in there. We're going to use it to drive it in and bottom it out, and this thing will probably press back in there, but it'll be all right because there will be this lip right here, and we'll be able to come back through from the bottom side and knock it back out again. All right, so we're going to hit on this, and you won't have to give it a lot of. It should go in relatively easy. See, it's going in. And I can see inside we got a little ways to go. We're almost there. I think I might need a little persuasion. Oh yeah, you can tell it's solid now. It's totally in there, and so is this bearing race. But now, we're going to drive that one back out through the backside here. So now, let's flip this dog over. Alright, so now, we got to flip back the other direction. This is now the top. Now you can see the lip right there of the bearing that we drove in there. So now we're going to pound that back out, and then we're going to put the top one in. So let's get that bearing back out of there now that we drove in there that doesn't belong. There we go, I think we're okay. We're gonna have to pick it up. Just like that. Now we can use this again to put the top one in. And the top one doesn't, this one won't go in this time. So again, you want to put the fat side down so that the bearing can go in. And this one, look at that. That one went in almost all the way. Let's make sure. Yes, sir. We're good to go there. Looks like we're good to go. Now, we can put this baby back together. So, we're going to slide this on up through. See why we greased this all up? It's going to be inside. And we can slide this guy right up through. And then we'll take our top bearing next. You want to get that up in there. We'll get that down in there. And then with this particular setup, we're going to put our dust seal, and you want to make sure that the seal goes inside. And what we should have done was greased up this seal first. Damn it. Well, luckily, we have grease all over the place, so let's get us some grease off of here. And try to do this one-handed. We need to get this thing greased up a little bit. It looks kind of dry. See, it absorbed all that grease right up. Alright, that's good. And then we'll throw the seal on. And then it says using this setup to use the washer that's supplied, so we'll put the washer on next. And then this guy. But I think almost with that washer, it seems like we don't have a whole lot of threads. I'm not sure if I want to use the washer or not. It says in the manual that you're supposed to tighten this down to 25 foot-pounds first, and then rock it back and forth. So I'm just going to tighten it down as far as I can. And guess what? Now our race-driven spanner wrench that we bought for the shock, for the rear shock adjusters, we can use it again. So this tool is the hook wrench. This thing is turning out to be a pretty good find, huh? So let's tighten it down. Because we're obviously not going to leave it this tight, because otherwise we won't be able to steer. Well, maybe. Well, it seems like we can. And then it says to rock this thing back and forth, steer to the left and to the right a bunch of times to get everything seated. Although that's for the OEM stuff. That has those weird ball bearings and all that stuff. I think we're probably, since this has the rollers in it and they're already in place, this step is probably not needed for this setup, but I'm going to do it anyway because it seems, yeah, I don't know, it seems like it might press everything together a little bit and get everything situated. And then it says to tighten this guy to like 5 foot-pounds or something weird like that. Let's see what it says. Okay, so the manual says to tighten this to 25 foot-pounds, rock it back and forth, steer it to the left and to the right 2 or 3 times. To seat everything. And then loosen it back up again. And to torque it to the designated torque spec, which is between 5.1 and 5.8 foot-pounds, which is not very much. So we're just going to go ahead and just snug it down very gently. That seems about right to me. We're going to leave that washer on there. I believe that was enough threads to get the job done. You know what? I take that back. That was not very many threads. So see, we need more threads. I'm going to leave this washer off. That was much more threads. Feels too tight. I say we're good to go there. All right, folks, we got a piece in. Woo! Now we're going to install the upper. All right, now that this is all set and ready to rock and roll, we can install the fork bridge. So let's throw this guy. Just fits right on top of here. And then you got a washer. We put the flat side down. Looks like they're both pretty flat, but this side looks a little flatter, so it's going to go all down. And then we got our big ass nut. Ooh-wee, look at that. We're not going to torque this down yet. We're going to get the forks in here temporarily. Actually, probably not even temporarily. We're just going to install. Let's just get the whole front end going, man. We don't need to temporarily do anything. Let's put this goddamn thing together. All right, folks. Before we can tighten this nut down here, we're going to go ahead and put the forks in, because they will align all of this up, and then we can torque this baby down. So let's get the front forks in. And this is the side with the brake, so it's going to go on the right side, which is this side. I'm going to slide this baby right up on through, if we can. Alright. And we're going to need to tip this baby back. Hook you right in there. And of course, we're going to be sagging now. Boom. That's okay. That's why we're on our makeshift jack back there. So we need the bolts. Bolts are always good. The two long ones with the nut go down here on the bottom, because this is the longer one. These are all shorter. And I'm going to do this the easy way. And these take a 12 millimeter. We're not going to tighten that down quite yet. Let's just throw all of our bolts in there. Let's put these on the other side. And let's slide our other fork up through there if we can. This is going to be tricky because now we need to tilt it again. We should have done that ahead of time. Actually, I'm just going to zip these for a second. I don't want that to come back out. So now we're going to pick it up. Right about there looks good. Let's get the back on. Just give it a little. Not super tight, just give it a little bit. All right. Let's get us our top bolts in there too. Okay, when putting this top one in, this gets the helmet holder right here. This goes on the bottom of the top two. We're just going to zip these down right now. All right, we had these nuts that go on the back of these long ones, and that gets your brake cable holder right here that has our little threaded. We're gonna have to come up with something because we have different brake cables, but that goes right on here and gets these nuts. These nuts. Isn't that a Dr. Dre song? These nuts. We're just gonna tighten this down right now just to put it on there. But yeah, we're gonna come up with a cable, some kind of cable holder, because we got a different size brake cable. But yeah, all right, peoples, now that we got these guys in and it's kind of secured, right, so that these forks won't come out, they're not torqued or anything yet. Now we can get this guy torqued up. So it calls for between 65 and 87 foot-pounds. I'm going to use 72. I just try to go somewhere in between, in the middle of that. And depending on the condition of the bolts, I go higher, to the higher side, or to the high side if they're brand new. And, you know, lower if they're used and they were difficult coming out and stuff like that. But anyway, this one is a pretty nice bolt, so we're just going to go straight in the middle and go to 72. Sounds good. It takes a 32 millimeter. So yeah, let's get this baby torqued up. There we go, 72. Now that the steering stem nut is torqued, we can move on to the fork pinch bolts. So let's back these guys off. And what we're going to do here is you want to align this so that you can see that there's a little groove right there. And you want to get it right in the groove, which is right there. And now we're going to just snug this up a bit so it doesn't move, which it just did. The pinch bolts get torqued between 13 and 18 foot-pounds. I'm going to use 15, kind of somewhere in the middle, but at the lower end of it, because these bolts were pretty nasty when I took them out, so they're probably they're not quite as good as if I bought them brand new. So we're just gonna go 15 foot-pounds with this. 15. 15. And anytime I have a double, I go back and torque them again, just because once we get one of these secured, the other one could become looser. So let's just go ahead and double check these. See? 15. All right, yeah, 15. 15, there we go. Okay, now let's get these top two. 15, 15, go back and hit them again to make sure. 15, yeah, see that one tightened up a little more. There we go. All right, now we've got those done, let's hit the other side. We're gonna have to do the same thing, let's back them off. And then we'll line this up. So that it's in the groove. And there it is. All right, now we can torque these dogs. 15. 15, then we'll go back and hit them again because they're doubled, remember? 15. 15. Okay, now let's get this guy. 15. 15. 15. 15. This one just keeps moving. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we're good. Now that we have these torqued up, now remember we haven't done the caps. We left those when we rebuilt the front forks, link right there. If you want to go back and watch that, when I rebuilt these front forks, we didn't torque these caps because we were waiting to get them into the triple trees here so that we can now torque them. So they're going to also be 15 foot-pounds, which works out perfectly. I'm already set for that. They get torqued between 11 and 22, but I'm going to use 15 since we just used 15 anyway. And they take a 17 millimeter. These were a 12, by the way. Okay, well, this isn't working out too good. So, let's do like we did before. We're going to have to turn it to hit the stopper. 15. 15. And let's hit this guy. 15. 15 it is. All right, now that we got the fork tube caps torqued, now we can move on to, let's get this guy down here. Now we have the brake hose stay that we're gonna have to secure here. And it takes a couple of nuts right here, and we are going to torque this guy to 18 foot-pounds. And we're also going to use some blue Loctite. We don't want these to vibrate loose and fall off the back, so let's just throw us on some blue Loctite on the threads here. And we're going to torque this guy to 18 foot-pounds. 18. 18. All right. Now that all this front stuff is secured, torqued, and ready to rock and roll, we can move on to the fender. Let's put the front fender. Let's mount the front fender up in there. So, yeah, while we have all this open, and before we put the wheel on, let's go ahead and mount up our front fender and get it, all the holes drilled out and the rubbers mounted and everything. All right, folks, so before we put on the wheels, there's only one wheel. So before we put on the wheel and the brake and the front hub and all that good stuff, while we are exposed up there, and we don't have the wheel in the way, let's go ahead and get our front fender hooked up, because now's the best time to do that. So, I'm lucky. We got to drill these. This is a Meyer plastic. It doesn't come pre-drilled with the holes. You got to do that your damn self, which I don't know why they couldn't just take like extra 5 seconds and drill the holes if they knew where they were supposed to go. But anyway, you know, we're going to do that. So, I got lucky, and I got the broken fender from the teardown. And it has the 4 holes in it on the front. So we're going to line it up. And luckily, it fits in there perfectly. So we're going to line it up so that it is flush with the top like that. And it rests on the sides perfectly, which it does. And then we're going to hold it in place. And we're going to hit the holes. Now, they don't look very even, do they? No. Well, this sucks. You wouldn't think this is such a big deal, but for some reason, these plastics are the hardest goddamn things to get lined up in the history of mankind. There. Alright, so it worked better when I used the marker instead. And now we can use this little center punch guy to get right on the marker. And now we can drill these babies out to match the size of the other holes, which were huge. So I'm gonna have to find some drill bit to figure that out. Let's do it. All right, folks, I got those drilled out and we're ready to install our brand new OEM hardware. Let's get this unwrapped and get this sucker put together. Yeah, and I happen to have a 3/4 inch, which is perfect. 3/4 inch hole maker. Hole maker bit. All right, let's get it done. Woo! All right. Boom! Rubbered up. Then I think we just plunk these things through. All right, so after we got all the bushing, all the collars in there, we're going to add some Loctite to each one of the bolts. Each one gets a washer. So let's just get some Loctite on this first one here. And then we'll just put it up through right here. And put it up through and right into the hole. And then we'll do the same for the other three. All right, so in the book, there is no torque spec for these. It just says tighten it. So since that's the case, I'm going to use 88 inch-pounds. That is my go-to number when we do these 10 millimeter head bolts. 88. 88. 88, 88. Now our fender's secure. Whoo, let's move on to this front wheel. Oh yeah, she's looking like something. Now let's get that front wheel on there. All right, next step, before we can put the front wheel on, we're going to go ahead and put the front wheel hub loosely on, and you want to make sure that you have your caliper on right now. Because if you do not have your caliper on, when we put this wheel hub on, you will never get it back on. This thing has to go on right now. Then we'll just secure down the lug nuts. Just gonna get these hand tight right now. Now Now let's move on to putting on the rest of the hardware and get this wheel mounted up and torqued down. All right, the next step, we're gonna lightly install our axle holder here, and very important, it says up, so you want to make sure this goes up, because that's pretty goddamn self-explanatory. All right, we're just gonna throw that on there, and we're just gonna get these nuts started. Woo, that's what she said. These are lock nuts, so there's no need for any thread locker or anything on here. They're nylocks. So, all right, next, let's put our wheel on. Son bitch, we're there. Okay, folks, so I was just going by the book. It says to attach the axle holder on here first, loosely, before we put the wheel on, but I believe that's only if your axle is out. My axle, if you remember correctly, when we rebuilt the wheel hub, we greased it up nice, we greased up the axle and put it all the way through, so I'm going to do things a bit different than the book. I think it'll be easier. So if your axle is out, then you want to do this right here. I'm going to take it off. Since my axle is already through the wheel and greased up, I don't want to pull it back out and have to re-grease it and get stuff all over the place. It's already ready to go. So we're just going to take this off. And then we're going to grab the wheel and we're just going to plunk it right down in there. Pull the axle out a tiny bit to get started in these threads right here. These are the threads where the axle is going to go through. So yeah, let's get down to business. Alright folks, so here we are. We're going to put the front wheel on the easy way. So what I did was, I used the rear tires here to tip the frame back, hold it down, and voila! We have the front forks up in the air. So we can go ahead and crank this front wheel on. We'll have to be a little careful though, because it's going to get top heavy and it's going to pull these down probably, but that's okay. Because once we have everything secured in place, we can rest it on the ground and everything will be ready to rock and roll. So yeah, let's get this front wheel on. And look at my curly lights. Whoo! Look at that. It's starting to look like something, huh? Looks like a 200x chopper. Looks like a Mad Max 200x chopper with spare tires on the back, and yeah, we're getting ready to head out into the desert, looks like. Woohoo! Alright, let's get this front wheel on. So yeah, so as you can see, in this case, this is going to work out better because our axle is already in here and already greased up. We already put a coat of grease on the axle and shoved it through, and if I pull it back out, we're going to be stripping away that nice coat of grease we have in there. Woo, you can feel it, it's nice. So, what we're going to do is we are going to put this sucker up somehow. So we're going to hold it up like this. We're going to pull the axle out a little bit so it goes past the threads there. And we're going to have to line up our brake over here. There we go. We need to get it out of the way. There we go, we're starting the threads into the other side. And now that we've done that, now we can secure this guy. And now we're going to be top heavy, but we can drop it now. There we we go. That's what I was looking for. Now we can secure this guy all the way through. And now you can see right here that when we tighten this guy, see, we're pulling him closer. Here it comes. Boom. We're tight. Woo. Now we can torque the wheel nuts, and we can torque the axle, and we can tighten this guy down. First we're going to do these, then we're going to torque this, then we're going to torque this guy on top. So the wheel nuts get torqued to 47 foot-pounds. 47. 47. 47. 47. And the axle gets 65 foot-pounds. 65. And now we can tighten these down. First we're going to zip them down. We want to tighten the top ones first, and then the lowers. This is one of those rare occasions where we don't crisscross. We tighten the top two first, and then the bottom two. They get torqued from 7.2 foot-pounds to 10 foot-pounds. And I'm going to use 88 inch-pounds, which is 7.3 repeating. And I feel that's probably plenty. You know what? We'll just go an even 90 on this one. I'm going to do the top ones first. The top two first. There's 90. 90. 90 and 90. And there we go. We are bolted up in the front. All right, peoples. Now that we got our front wheel torqued down, axle in, everything rocking and rolling, we can get our front caliper torqued down and get that baby in there. So let's get the bolts out. We're going to be using some blue Loctite on these dogs. So let's slide that sucker up into place. You want to blue Loctite these for sure. And then we'll blue Loctite the bottom one. And these get torqued between 15 and 22 foot-pounds. I'm going to use 18 foot-pounds is all I need because we have the thread locker on there. 18. 18. Well, there we go. Front end's coming together. Let's get us on the mounting hardware up there on the front. First, we're going to mount up our cable guide, and it's going to go right here. And we're going to use some blue Loctite on the bolts. And the other bolt. And we're going to hit these dogs at 88 inch-pounds. 88. 88. All right, next we're going to put us on our steering stopper cover. And we got us a brand new one that I found aftermarket. Somebody's making these. I got it on eBay. And it even comes with some brand new pan screws. They're pretty nice. So we're going to go ahead and blue Loctite this, of course, too. And we'll blue Loctite the other one. And these take a 7mm. And they do have a lock nut or a lock washer on here also, so I don't really need to do too tight with these. That should be good. That should be plenty. Woo! Look at that, folks. Make sure that you subscribe. Yeah, ring that bell down there. Let's get some of this dust off of here. Whoo! All right, yeah, make sure that you subscribe. We can move on, man. This is coming together. So exciting. We got us a front end, folks. Whoo! Now, we can move on to plucking this on some handlebars. We're not quite done with the front yet. We'll get us some handlebars on there and some controls, and then we can move on to the rear end and we'll have ourselves a full-ass roller. Yes, this is exciting. And then you know what time it is. Yeah, then it's time to build the motor. Yes, I can't wait. We are almost there, folks. All we need to do is just a few more pieces. Well, a motor, it's gonna take a while, but that's it. We're ready to rock. I think that's probably it for today, though. We're gonna go ahead and hook the handlebars up, the controls, the brake pedal, and the foot pegs, and all that stuff in the next video coming up. Yeah, so make sure that you subscribe. Yeah, make sure that you subscribe down there and ring that bell to get notified when all the stuff's coming up, because we're going to be putting the handlebars on, and we're going to be putting in the foot pegs, the brake pedal, all kinds of good stuff going on. And then we can move on to the rear. We're going to put on the swing arm, all that good stuff, rear wheels, the axle, all that good stuff. Yeah, and make sure that you like this video too, because why wouldn't you, man? Just crack that like button down there. Crack the thumbs up. All right. Whoo. You know what time it is. Peace out, Girl Scouts. Woo. We have a front end. Yes. We have a front end.